Hello, welcome back. This is Chapter 5, and I am Mr. Dunaway, ready to get things going here. We're going to be talking about ratios and rates and proportions in Chapter 5. All kinds of applications that we can do with proportions. Tons. In fact, it's a really valuable piece of information for you to get your head wrapped around as we get through the end of Chapter 5 here. So pay attention. You'll definitely want these skills as you move into your next class. Let's just get rolling right into the vocabulary now. The bottom of page 1. A ratio. A ratio is the quotient of two quantities of the same measure. Quotient of two quantities of the same measure. And just to make sure you remember, quotient means division. So you're comparing two things using division, and the units of measure that you're comparing are the same. A really good example is, let's say you had a TV and the big screen TV, and I'm just guessing these measures here. Let's just say that that's 2 feet by 6 feet. It's not actually measures that you would find there. In fact, that would be a really strange looking TV, but let's just pretend that's it for now. 2 foot by 6 foot. If I asked you to write a ratio of the measures, it would be 2 feet to 6 feet. So you see how the units of measure are the same here? Okay, that's a ratio. When those measures are the same thing, it's regarding the TV, and they're both measured in feet. Okay, keep that in mind as we move through the chapter here, because there's another we're going to come up where we change those measures. And it's a subtle thing, but it is something you should be aware of. All right, number 2, another way to say the same thing is it's a comparison. It's a comparison. In this case it's a comparison of the width to the length using division. All right, so we could divide those out if we wanted to get a ratio. So we're comparing two things using division there. Okay, there's 3 different ways that we can write a ratio. One is with the word 2, 3 to 5. You can use a colon like this, but you would say it the same way, 3 to 5. Or you could say 3/5 is the fraction, which we have actually been using fractions quite a bit, and those are ratios when we do that. All right, so 3 different ways can be written. And let's look at what a very simple example here. If we've got a baseball player, he gets 206 hits and 612 at-bats. Okay, so what was the ratio of hits to at-bats? And the point of this question is just to get you to identify the words. Okay, so your hits are going to go first. So here you got 206 hits, and then you're just basically going to use one of the methods of writing your ratio to at-bats to 612. Right, and then that's what you would do. You could do it this way, or you could do it with the word 2 if you wanted to, either way. Now, in the second one here, if they asked you for the at-bats to the hits, well, then you would take the at-bats, which was 612. Just make sure you put that first there. Now, we can reduce these. I didn't do it in these, but you could reduce these just like a fraction, because you saw how one of the ways we can write a ratio is as a fraction. So you could reduce this. If we did, that would be, I think, what is it, 306 to 103. That could reduce down, and that's the same ratio as the original one right there. So it is okay to reduce ratios just like you would a fraction. A couple of simple questions here, I hope. This says, what's the ratio of the longest to the shortest? So you just have to make sure that that longest side goes first when you do that. There, okay, the longest side is 5, the shortest side is 3, so 5 to 3. And then the second question just reverses those words around, 3 to 5. Okay, so just pay attention to the order of the words, where that word 2, per is a word that could pop up. It could mean a ratio, but that really applies more when we get into rates, which is coming up next. A rate, subtle difference here. Okay, remember how I talked about the TV when you're measuring feet to feet? All right, a rate is a comparison using division of two different kinds of measures. So this type of example might be miles per gallon. Take a look at that. Miles per gallon, what you're comparing here. Now we all know what that means, right? It means how many gallons you put in your car lets you go how far, or how far you go depends on how many gallons are in your car, right? So consider the type of measure you're measuring. You're comparing a unit of distance, okay, to basically a volume, all right, or an amount of gallons, which brings energy to your car. There, so you have two different things that are measured there. Another example, ounces per square feet. This one I recall a question that may be coming up here soon of if you're putting grass seed on your yard and you might want to spread a certain amount of ounce per square feet. You have, again, two different types of measure, right? Ounces is a capacity measure and square feet is an area measure. Dollars per pound, clearly different measures there, right? One's currency and then one is, again, a measure of weight or mass. And then dollars per month, again, two different measures. So those are rates, okay? When those measures are different types. And we understand, okay, we've experienced them in our life, that we understand what it is they're trying to tell us, probably. There. So well, let's look at this question. I mentioned the grass seed. It says if you have 60 ounces of grass seed, that is, and then you have to seed 3,000 square feet, well, what is the rate in ounces per square foot? How do you want to set your spreader to know how many ounces of seed it's releasing per every square foot? All right, so here's how we would set that up. We would put 60 ounces divided by 3,000 feet squared. And you might be wondering, well, how did you know to do that? Here you go, right here. If you look at this sentence, what is the rate? Watch this. It says ounces per square foot. Okay, in math, usually when you hear the word per, it usually is going to mean divide, or you're setting up that rate. Okay, so what we did is we took 60 ounces and we're dividing it by 3,000 square feet. So that's basically how you would take care of this problem. And then there's the fraction form if we reduced it. But when we get into rates and unit rates, we usually just go ahead and divide it down to its value. So you actually could divide it right here. You could just divide that in your calculator and get this, 2/100ths ounce of an ounce per every square foot if you were to spread that stuff as instructed. Okay, so again, it goes back. Make sure you make a mental note when you see that word per. That's telling you what's getting divided. Whatever word is before that, just think of that as the numerator. Whatever word follows it, think of that as the denominator, and it'll set itself up for you. Hopefully, make your life a little bit easier for you. Okay. Well, here is a problem of a pharmacy student. And the pharmacy student, let's see, they earn $3,690 for 3 months. We're at the bottom of page 4 on your notes here, by the way, if you're not sure. They earn $3,690 for 3 months. Okay, so that's a rate. That's if the question goes on to say, what is the rate of pay per, there's your key word, there's your divide, pay per month. Okay, so easy. We're going to put the pay, because it said pay, per, which is divide, and then months. Now, all you have to do to find the rate, we should just go ahead and divide that out. You divide those numbers out. There you go, $1,230 per month. That's typically what they do. So this one is called a rate. This is a rate. This one, when we divide it out per 1 month, that's called a unit rate, and that's actually coming up here in just a few minutes right there. But typically when we talk about rates, we do go ahead and divide it out and get the final value right there. But before we get into that, let's look at just another application here. This particular question says, we'll find the rate of speed in feet per second of the following. And you just follow the words. You've got feet per seconds. So that first question, you're just going to have 2200 divided by 2. Divide that out to be 1100 feet per second. That's pretty fast. It's probably a bullet or something like that. And then the last two questions basically would work out to be the same way right there. Okay, that just slightly passed my 10-minute mark, so I'm going to wrap this video up. Hopefully you're able to get all that stuff down without too much trouble, and we will be picking it up here shortly.